2cast.
Let the games begin.
In 3, 2.
Welcome to the Portal 2 cast, the only show designed to make you a better builder. Today we're doing Friday requests one day early because, as my regular viewers know, Tuesday was my birthday, but what they didn't know is tomorrow is my birthday party. So I probably will not have time to record a show, and I know that Friday requests are very popular because it is a chance to see your puzzle on this show. Anyone who watches the show is welcome to attend my party, as long as you already know my address and have received an invitation. Today we're going to look at 3 tests, starting with test code 45131 by 7 Josh. Alright, Josh or 7, whichever your name is. My first comment for you is there is not enough lighting in this chamber. So first I will show what your average experience is as you walk in. You're going to hop on a faith plate and it goes nowhere, and you're going to try another one and it goes nowhere, and then if you're very methodical like me, you're going to try the third one and it goes nowhere. If you have more of a random flair, you probably will jump around and try different ones. The most irritating thing is that most of them will lead you back down to the ground floor if you're not careful, even when you get up to the top. It doesn't really add much to your puzzle. If you wanted to make it more of a brain buster, you should add puzzle elements to this where you're navigating through them by unlocking things that block your way. Just having to pick whichever one and get lucky, or try all of them until you succeed, is a bit tiring. And now we're at the top, and I begin to like things much better, although I still note that for this giant chamber, still only one light. We have a few mystery things. There's something back there we can't reach. There's an elevator here that doesn't activate. There's a cube up there we can't grab. A better flinger than myself might be able to angle himself up from the floor, I'm not sure. This first cube over on the left, of course, is pretty easy to grab, so we're going to go ahead and do that. And we have a cube button here by the exit, and so for the second half of this puzzle, if I were grading it by itself, I would actually like this quite a bit. It's big, but there are flings involved, so of course I can forgive the size, although I don't think you need all the left to right. You have the exit in plain sight, you have a number of things. For example, if you're not paying attention, you can see right here that you have a sphere button, so you have a goal to acquire a sphere. Very early on, I like all of this. Nothing wrong with it. So from here the puzzle becomes very logical. You can only activate one of the 2 lasers. So if you activate that one, that activates the elevator. Of course, I will have to get up there first. One minor annoyance, I would have placed this somewhere where I could see it. You could do something where you were on glass here and seeing underneath. It's just a little bit hard to lean out and see where that laser catcher is. So now we have the reflection cube. We're going to reflect the laser, which opens a flip panel that allows us even more flinging. So here is the part that stumped me for quite a while. I did notice you put an ant line all the way across, and that is a critical clue. But here's what happens when you hit this button. You have 3 seconds with this flip panel, which does a whole lot of nothing for you. And then if you're paying attention on the other side, you'll notice the same timer activates over there, and you have the coveted sphere, which you will need to solve the puzzle. So, what can you do? The thing you probably missed is that this button also reversed the excursion funnel, so that's the part that you might miss. So the clue, of course, is to somehow use all 3 of these things in conjunction. And here's where you encounter an execution puzzle that I actually don't mind, because with a series of short measurable goals to get you to this point, I find that I'm actually intrigued enough to want to solve the puzzle. I feel challenged. It's not that someone has said, oh, here's something that I can do but you can't do it, I'm showing off my mad flinging skills, but rather it's part of the puzzle. First to figure it out and then execute is much more motivating to a player like me. The puzzle is to fling yourself and then fling yourself and get a portal on that excursion funnel, so that when you go back up here, you are able to activate all 3 of those elements at the same time and excursion funnel that sphere out. Let's see if I can do it. Now here is a problem, and I'm not sure how thoroughly you play tested this, but I actually hit that exactly right as I was coming out of my fling, and the excursion funnel captured me. Can't get back to my ledge, and now I have my doubts that even if I reproduce that fling, the same thing won't just happen to me again. Alright, so you just have to time it where you come in after the fling just a bit with that excursion funnel that way. And let's hit our button, excursion funnel out, and our sphere should now drop onto that side where all the aerial faith plates were. Let's see if we can't go retrieve it. So I found this puzzle easy to solve mentally, except for the one hidden element, and then of course the intuit that, hey, that button must be doing something to the excursion funnel too, or this is unsolvable, is when I started to look for that. An observant player will see there is a timer on it. The execution difficulty for me was very high. That sort of thing doesn't come easily to me. I found it difficult but solvable, and I liked the second half of this a fair bit. I would actually lose the part with the faith plates unless you want to dress it up and make it more of a logical puzzle than just a guessing game. Thanks for mapping. Reflection Gel Testing by Paco. Now in Paco's workshop, he rated this map as easy, if I remember correctly. Now I want to say something to you people when you rate a map easy. Every puzzle is easy when you know the answer. Every puzzle. If you mapped it, it's easy. Before you decide on a difficulty for something, you really should watch someone who has never seen it before play it. If you've cut yourself at all in the course of these tests, you might have noticed that your blood is pure gasoline. Here we have another map in Karl Kenner's style mod, which I love because the old Aperture Science was my favorite part of the game, and I have so much respect for Karl for bringing this back to us without requiring that we all learn Hammer. So we have a cube that's automatically going into a pneumatic diversity vent, and it just cracks me up. I've never seen one in an old Aperture style. We have a high energy pellet, which can be annoying because the reason Valve went to lasers is because they're constantly on, and the timing was irritating. You could solve the puzzle and still miss that repeatedly. And we have an element I have never played with before, which is Reflection Gel, and it's this bright whitish and dripping, but you can see it's sort of purplish as it's hitting the water. So let's have a look at the actual puzzle here. I liked it quite a bit, but I will say that when I walked into it, it wasn't easy. There's a lot of things going on here. An element from the first game that was actually made easier for players. We have an element that was taken out of the main game because it couldn't be balanced correctly. And we have an element that most players have never seen before. So just by instinct, I went to grab a cube and drop it on this button here. Although I confess for a while, I wasn't even sure what this button did. I later figured out it opened that door. I also didn't remember that that was the pellet catcher from the first game. So the timing for this is actually fairly easy despite my complaints with high energy pellets in general. You have to pay attention when it comes out of there because you won't have time along here, and you will see that this timer for this flip panel is quite short. The time to hit it is right after the pellet goes, I think. Voila! One part solved. So this took me a couple of seconds just to see what that did. We have a panel here, and we can play with this reflection gel, which Karl Kenner has called weak reflection gel because it only reflects lasers, and I think he said it doesn't even reflect light bridges. So I will show you how it works on this panel here, if I can get it. So now you can see that the laser is reflecting down, and because I actually know the solution, I'm going to skip some of my early trial and error here and show you that this laser can then be reflected through a portal up to there. Now, I immediately noticed that that opened the exit. What confused me for a long time was that it also does something else. It takes away this panel here. So if you're playing around with ways to try and get on the exit, you're actually not going to see this. Of course, I saw that something else was back here. The breakthrough point for me was saying that this had a plus sign on it, or a 4, whatever that's supposed to be, and so did that back there. And you can't fire through here, that's glass, and I even tried portal bumping and I couldn't make it work through here. So I did not notice for a while that firing my laser through there actually opens this, and that's great. The other thing I tried was stepping through here and trying to portal bump, which actually can get you stuck back here. So what you're meant to do is portal back there. So now we can put the cube on the button, which raises the elevator, and of course there is one more step, which it couldn't be that easy, could it? So you're going to want to be here so you can put your cube on the button and stand on the elevator, and then of course the very last step is to laser your exit open. Excellent puzzle.
Science isn't about why, it's about why not. 2. Box your stuff. Out the front door. Parking lot. Car. Goodbye.
Okay, excellent puzzle overall. I liked it very much. Things that seem really easy to you are not necessarily going to be as easy to a complete stranger who walks in. Paco wrote that this was kind of a test chamber with reflection gel to get him started, and if it got votes up, he would go ahead and make more like this. So you have my blessing. Go ahead and make more like this. Last but not least, we will look at Aperture Enigma by Geniosis. And this puzzle is mind-bending, he wrote on its page, and I agree. First confession time. I have not beaten this puzzle, and I will not beat it for you here on the show. And I will show you why. Now, first I like it's a very well-lit chamber. There's a bit of geometric design going here, so a lot of artistry gone into this puzzle, which I like. It doesn't need to be quite this big. That's very intimidating, and the cubes from the cube droppers have a long way to fall. I'm not sure that that adds anything really to your puzzle. I think there's a design you're going to see from above. Hope I'm not giving anything away there once you finish this, and that may be the reason for the height. If so, then yes, you want this much height. But I think part of the pattern you're not going to be able to see because of that ceiling there. So let me show you what this puzzle is kind of about, because this is a tough puzzle for me to grade because it's very frustrating, but I think it's meant to be frustrating, and in a sense that's okay. First thing you want is these reflection cubes, and you can just get one by laser capturing there. Now this is a preview of coming attractions. It's fairly obvious when you have a laser catcher that gives you a cube. When you redo the laser catcher, you will lose your cube. So there are four reflection cubes in this puzzle, and you get paranoid where you're hopping over lasers, holding the cubes up over your head, and you can make a slip, and what'll happen is the cubes, even as they drop, they might fall in the way of your lasers, and you're going to have to start part of this thing over. So it can be very frustrating, very intimidating. So of course you're thinking, well, we'll just avoid the laser. But the problem is, so now I have two cubes. I'm going to use my second cube to reacquire my first cube so that I don't keep redestroying my first cube. And that's the way this puzzle goes. So now that you have those two things fired, you have another laser, and you can try and get your next laser going. But of course, if I activate that, I lose my original cube again. So this puzzle goes on and on that way. I did get a step further when I first tried this puzzle. I think to this relay and all the ones you had seen me do previously, and that catcher activated, but every time I tried to add a fourth cube or portals to the mix, I would end up destroying one of my prior cubes and not be able to get back to where I was quite so easily. So I think this is a good puzzle. It's not frustrating in the way that execution-based puzzles are, where it's like, hey, let me try and kill the player, or make them just have to spam click to target something. This is more of a thinking, mind-bending puzzle, which is exactly the kind of puzzle I like. It does have a high frustration factor, so if that's what you're going for, Geniosis, then absolutely you have nailed it. It's not one that I'm going to have the patience to play here on the show, or indeed with the limited time I have to play most days. And at first I felt bad about that until I read on your comments that someone took several hours and he couldn't solve it either. So this puzzle is meant to be quite hard. Geniosis has rated it mind-bending, and again, I agree. He's put 2 hints on his page, so I encourage watchers to go ahead and give this puzzle a try and prove that you are better at this sort of thing than me. Excellent job mapping this. I can tell it was well designed. Thanks for mapping.